What a wonderful kirtan. That's one of the best kirtans I heard in a long time.
Yeah, I was just thinking that, Lord Chaitanya, he would allocate who was singing, who was playing the kartals and the drums, and who was the chief dancer. So we've got Gaura Pran's the chief dancer, Haridas was the chief kirtan singer. So thank you, Haridas. That was a wonderful kirtan. Well done. And well done, Gaura Pran, for your excellent dancing and kartal playing. So we will keep the introduction brief because everyone who is here tonight has already been here. Welcome back, Jigga. Thank you very much for coming. And yes, I think we will continue with the third instalment of the Glories of Srila Prabhupada. So please, let us give Bhakti Caitanya Swami a warm Newcastle welcome by loudly chanting the Hare Krishna mantra on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Oh, sorry.
Thank you, Haridas. Haribol.
His Holiness Bhakti Caitanya Swami ki.
Keep your motor car. Hare Krishna. Everyone, sit down and relax. Namo Vishnu-Vade Krishna Krishna Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti-Vedanta Swami-Niti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Prachayane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pastvachade Shatane Vanchakalptruvyaschai Kripa Sindhuvya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Yes, so devotees, you remember last night, initially we focused on humility, Prabhupada's humility, and I think that was nice. Very interesting. And this evening, then of course we went on to other things after, a little while. So this evening, we will focus on also a very important subject, extremely important. We'll focus on prasadam.
Haribo!
Yes. And we've got a few stories in that regard, and then after a while we'll go on to something else. So here's the first one. It's actually directly from His Holiness Bhakti Charu Maharaj, like verbatim, his words. That Prabhupada one time, actually, Bhakti Charu Maharaj, he only joined late. Just before Prabhupada left this world, actually. Like maybe 2 years before, or 1 year, or something along those lines. Right, but Prabhupada just really appreciated him, and Prabhupada just sort of adopted him into his entourage. And one time, when they were in Bombay, Prabhupada taught him how to make a special preparation. This is called, the sort of technical name is Aloo Charchari. Aloo means potato, and charchari is a style of cooking in which you use a lot of, like the medium means oil or ghee. In this case, Prabhupada taught him using mustard oil. I don't know if we get mustard oil much here, but it's a whole special taste, literally. Yeah. So, and what you do when you cook it, use a lot of oil and usually a lot of chili. If you've got Jamuna's big cookbook, then there's a few chacharis there, 3 or 4 maybe, something like that. But this is not in the book, but this was coming from Bhakti Churumaj and directly from Prabhupada. So Prabhupada personally taught him cook it with mustard oil and about a dozen red chilies, a lot of turmeric, and like that. And then the charchari, what that means is you slightly char it. You slightly burn it. No, you don't really burn it, but it's like sort of borderline burning. So that, particularly with potato, it will form a crust on the bottom, or begin forming a crust. Then you turn it, taking the partially formed crust and sort of merging it into the rest, and then you get it to the point where it's forming a crust again. It's almost burning, sort of borderline, and then so you keep on like that. So Prabhupada showed him how to do it, and he did it, and Prabhupada really liked it. Prabhupada really liked it. So then, this is 1977, so Srila Prabhupada is, he's going to leave this world just in some months, few months. And Srila Prabhupada, I think that this incident that I'll mention now occurred, Prabhupada went to Rishikesh, I think after he came back from England, but maybe not, maybe just before he came back from England, his last visit to the manor, which was included Janmashtami and included Prabhupada's Vyasa Puja. Yes, I think maybe it was before. But Prabhupada's health was not good. His health was not good. And then, there they are in Rishikesh, and Prabhupada said to him, "Can you please make that Alu Achari for me again?" And of course, Bhakti Maharaj was happy to oblige, but he was concerned because Prabhupada's health was not good. His stomach, Prabhupada's stomach was upset. And I don't know, maybe he had some sort of flu or something. But anyway, he says here, Prabhupada's stomach was not very good. So therefore, Bhakti Charu Maharaj, he speculated, the happy speculator, and instead of using mustard oil, he used ghee. And instead of using 10 or 12 red chilies, like red chilies, but they're dried chilies, then you break them up. Yeah. So he only used, what did he say? Just like one or two. Yes. So like this. He just put one or two red chilies instead of one or two dozen. I mean, you can just imagine. Broken into pieces. So Prabhupada took a bite and became very angry. Bhakti Maharaj said, very angry. And he asked, why didn't you put chili in? Why didn't you put chili in? And then, he chastised him at that point. But then for the next 2 days, then he said, I personally taught you how to cook that, and you've already forgotten. I mean, he was really, as Bhakti Maharaj says, he was very angry, not only that right at that moment, but whenever he called Bhakti Maharaj to come into the room, which was often to do this and do that, because he was Prabhupada's main secretary. So whenever he called Bhakti Maharaj in, Bhakti Maharaj says, he blasted me, saying what a nonsense I was. And it was not only to Bhakti Maharaj, but whenever anyone came to visit Prabhupada, just any guests, because people would come. Prabhupada was such, a well-known personality, so during any day, at least 10 or 15 or some number at least like that would come in. And all these people, Prabhupada told them. And when Bhakti Maharaj was in the room, Prabhupada would point to him and say, you see this boy here? I taught him how to do, and he explained. But what did he do? He gave me a whole lot of ghee and 1 or 2 chilies, and it's just ridiculous. So Prabhupada really chastised him for 2 days in a row. Whenever he'd see Bhakti Maharaj, he would be on his case. And whenever guests came, whether Maharaj was in the room or not, Prabhupada would tell the story to them. It was really quite something. So then on the 3rd day, so 2 days in a row, it was just drama. Then on the 3rd day, Prabhupada became a little pacified. And he asked Bhakti Maharaj, how did you forget the recipe? I taught you myself personally, not long ago at all. So then Bhakti Maharaj said, Srila Prabhupada, I didn't actually forget. But since your stomach was not so very good, I decided not to put so much chili in. And Prabhupada said, why didn't you tell me this? And then Prabhupada explained that when there's a lot of ghee or oil, you have to put a lot of chili because they counteract each other. Otherwise, just a lot of chili or just a lot of ghee or particularly mustard oil, they will create, a not good stomach situation. And so then Prabhupada said to him, Prabhupada said, I'm sorry. Prabhupada apologized to him. And Prabhupada said, when you get old, you become more irritable. You become angry more easily, so I'm sorry I got angry with you. And Bhakti Caitanya Swami said to him, Srila Prabhupada, you can chastise me as much as you like, but never say anything like that you're sorry. Never say anything like that to me again, please. Anyway, there you go. But some of you could look in Yamuna's cookbook. You got Yamuna's cookbook, yeah. There's a section called Chacharis. Otherwise, you can do that one, which is not in the book, which means mustard oil is more authentic, but if you haven't got mustard oil, you can use ghee and a lot of dry red chilies. Anyway. Okay. Then now, this is what I'll tell you next, is a story that Prabhupada told when visiting one family, very wealthy family, Malhotras in Bombay and Mumbai. Yes, so the ladies asked Prabhupada, what would you like to eat? Prabhupada's initial response was, anything. But then, and he said, whatever you make, I'm sure it will be very nice. But then he added that, please make sure there's no onions or garlic. And the ladies asked, why? Actually, they were aware of the standard, but they didn't know why the standard of no onions and no garlic. And then Prabhupada told the story, which we'll tell you now. And so now with these ladies who wanted to know why, Prabhupada said with a smile that eating onion and garlic is as bad as eating cow's flesh. Yeah. And he told the story. It's a story of a Muslim king, a cow, and a Brahmin. Yeah. So, yeah, it was during the Muslim period in India, and, for Muslims, cow killing and cow eating is just, it's just normal. It's just an ordinary thing. It's nothing special at all. But this particular Muslim king, he was a little concerned that, we kill a cow and there may be some sinful reactions. So what he did, every time that they would kill a cow and then, cook it and eat it, he would call one Brahmin to do some prayers to the effect that, speaking to the cow, in this life these people are slaughtering you, but in the next life you'll get the chance to slaughter them. This Brahmin recited prayers to that effect on the request of this Muslim king. So anyway, this was happening regularly, every so many days. And the Brahmin, somehow, he became attracted to the idea of partaking in some of that cow flesh. Yeah. But there was a system that he would come, the Brahmin would come, recite the prayers, and then go. Because he was not allowed to see them kill the cow. Prabhupada's telling the story. But what he did this one time when he was feeling attracted, he hid and witnessed the killing of the cow. cutting it up, etc., etc. And then there's a whole group of Muslims, and if they all took their whatever parts of the body of the cow and left, then the Brahmin came out of hiding, and he found that left on the ground was the ankle, one ankle of the cow, means the very lower leg. And then you know what the ankle is, right? That sticks out. And then the heel is underneath at the end there. Right, so he wasn't supposed to eat such meat. So he took the cow's ankle into the forest and buried it and made a plan that he would come back at night and then cook it and eat it at night when no one was going to see him. Yeah. But when he came back that night and dug it out of the ground, the cow's foot and ankle and that part, to his great surprise, it had turned into onion and garlic. Yes. So Prabhupada told these people that the cow's hoof, the bottom part, where it actually goes under the foot, the hoof became garlic, and the ankle, where the bones stick out on the side, became onion. Yes. And Prabhupada said, just as the cow's ankle has several layers of flesh, similarly the onion has several layers and is the color of flesh. And then Prabhupada finished the narration by telling them that when you eat garlic, it makes a bad smell come in your mouth. And when you cut onion, it makes tears come out of your eyes. The tears come because the cow is crying that in Kali Yuga even the Brahmin wants to eat onion. Yeah. And then of course the garlic makes a bad smell. And I occasionally look or just come across on some of the, one really, website I look at occasionally, their recipes, and including Indian recipes, and you know what? Practically all of them have onion and garlic. And it's rare to find a recipe which doesn't have both, or at least one of the two. It's very rare. And what to speak in Western cooking, you just don't find practically, unless it's a cake or something like that, you just don't find things that don't have onions and garlic. Even if they have no other spices at all, they have onions and garlic. Yes, right. So, the family loved the story and promised not to serve any onions and garlic. So just remember that, devotees, that the cow's hoof, the bottom part, is garlic, and the ankle is onion. Haribol. I'll leave it with you now. Okay. Yes, okay. Anyway, that was a bit of a stern story, and anyway, not so nice, but interesting. And that's Prabhupada telling the story. I will now tell you another prasadam story, which I think many of you have heard. I'll tell you one of my Tejas prasadam stories. You're familiar with my Tejas Prasadam stories? You're familiar? You sure? Not sure. Are you sure? No. Anyway, I'm going to tell it anyway, so there you go. Prabhupada was staying in what was at that time our ISKCON New Delhi temple. Now we've got, I think, 9 big temples, I mean, really big, in New Delhi. In those days, we had one, and it was a 2-bedroom flat in a block of flats in Delhi. In other words, it was really nothing very special at all. And I visited it once, actually. And you know, these 2 bedrooms, they're really small. Gosh. So that was ISKCON Delhi. And the temple president was a devotee named Tejas, who's really a nice devotee. He's born and raised in America, but he's lived in India now, I know, at least 30 or 40 years, something like that. So he was the temple president of a temple where there was him and his wife, and maybe 2 or 3 other devotees. And when Prabhupada came, then Prabhupada would take one of the bedrooms, and the temple president and Prabhupada's assistant would take the other bedroom, the second bedroom. So one day Prabhupada came to him and Prabhupada told Tejas Prabhu that my cook is not well. He cannot cook. So I want you to cook for me today. And Prabhupada asked Tejas, can you make upma? I mean, you're familiar with upma. Yeah. And Tejas, he's a real character. He replied, somewhat. Anyway. So what Tejas did, because he didn't really, I mean, he was not like a real cook. Someone who could just anytime just go and cook something up nicely. Around the corner, maybe 100 meters away or something, was you've heard of 5-star restaurants, right? You heard of 5-star? You heard of 5-star? You heard of 5-star restaurants? Mm-hmm. Right. This was a 7-star vegetarian restaurant, and no onions and no garlic. Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome. Right, so it was like, top class, just totally top class restaurant. So Tejas Prabhu went in, found the head cook, and got an upma recipe from him. And then he cooked up this upma. And it was like 7-star upma, which among other things meant it had about this much ghee, that's like between 1 and 2 centimeters of ghee on the top. And you couldn't just mix it in, and it wouldn't mix in again in a few minutes. There'd be another couple of centimeters of ghee on top. So it was like super luxury upma. And then, the cook also had to serve prasadam to Prabhupada. So Tejas Prabhu had to serve Prabhupada the upma, his lunch, which was upma and upma. That's what it was. It was just upma. And Prabhupada, I don't know if you've heard, but and like the usual cook, and who would know how much to put on his plate. And he wouldn't take a lot. There would always be something left over. But when sometimes some other devotees who were not like one of the regular cooks for Prabhupada would cook for Prabhupada. And, you know, some of these devotees, like in our temple in Durban, our main temple, Radharanath temple, we have, you know, so many devotees cooking for the deities. And it is the practice for householders who are living, you know, at home somewhere in the city. It is the practice that you bring along some containers and you cook extra. In fact, you bring along extra boga and you cook more, and then you do the offering, and then the extra you pack it, and you see these devotees going out after having cooked. They have all these like shopping bags full of prasadam, and off they go. Yes, anyway. So that Prabhupada, when devotees did like that, like they cooked more, Prabhupada would eat less. They would cook more because they're thinking, yeah, we'll get lots of maha, but Prabhupada would cook less. So anyway, here's Prabhupada with this upma. Very, you know, so much ghee just sort of coming out the side. And like I mentioned, at the best of times, Prabhupada would only eat a little. In this case, devotees, Prabhupada ate all the upma, the whole lot. And then Prabhupada asked Tejas Prabhu, who's sitting there, he's serving Prabhupada. Prabhupada asked him, is there any more? Tejas went out, took the plate out, got another, you know, like good serving of upma, brought it in, and Prabhupada ate it all. This is literally unheard of. In fact, Prabhupada practically never would ask for seconds of anything. So that now, there he is, and he's got the second helping, and Prabhupada ate it all. Then Prabhupada turned to Tejas Prabhu and asked, is there any more? And Tejas brought him the rest, whatever there was. And Prabhupada ate it all. The next morning, Prabhupada did not get up early. Not early would mean like 2 o'clock in the morning, something like that, between 1 and 2, to translate, but he didn't. But he got up sort of during Mangalarati, that sort of time, because then he would go out on his morning walk, either during or usually just after Mangalarati. So out went Prabhupada, and of course a group of devotees went with him. Generally the most senior, like Tejas would go because he's the temple president, and then some GBCs, sannyasis. Now you get a group of several, but composed like that. So off they go, and Prabhupada usually he would walk quickly. And sometimes young men would get left behind because Prabhupada would rarely walk quickly. This morning, Prabhupada was walking slowly, and the devotees could understand something's wrong. First of all, he didn't get up early, and now he's walking very slowly. But they didn't say anything. Then Prabhupada, he walked some few hundred meters. Prabhupada stopped. And Prabhupada said, that boy who cooked for me for my lunch, the upma yesterday, he tried to poison me. And everyone's just shocked. And they looked at Tejas, what is this? Then Prabhupada explained, yes, the upma was so nice. I ate all of it, and now my stomach is upset. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. And here's an interesting little thing. On another day, Tejas also cooked for lunch for Prabhupada. And normally he would go out meeting people to make them members and collect donations and that sort of thing. But that day didn't go out at all because he was cooking for Prabhupada. Then Prabhupada, at lunch, Prabhupada expressed regret. Prabhupada said that you have wasted your human form of life by not going out to preach in order to cook for me. Prabhupada said that, like that. You wasted your human form of life. Another time with Tejas, well, a few of the most senior devotees had taken sannyas, including one or two who had been married, but not for long. And one of them was Tamal Krishna Maharaj, who had been married, I think, less than a year, something like that. And Tamal Krishna Maharaj was encouraging all the householders that take sannyas. And what about your wife? No, she'll be okay. Something like that. Yeah. So Tejas, Tamal Krishna Goswami had preached, you could say, or tried to convince Tejas, come on, you must take sannyas too. Tejas had been married also like several months, maybe a year, not a long time. So Tejas came in and met with Prabhupada and explained to Prabhupada, I've decided I would like to take sannyas. And Srila Prabhupada said, why? And Tejas tried to explain, well, I would like to preach more. And Prabhupada said, you are going out with your wife and preaching very successfully. What's wrong with going out with your wife? And Tejas anyway, he still continued trying to argue for his taking sannyas. Prabhupada on his desk had a whole fairly substantial bowl of fruit, whole fruits. And Prabhupada took, like an orange and a banana and gave it to Tejas. Tejas is trying to explain why he wants to take sannyas. Prabhupada puts a couple of fruits in his hand. And then so Tejas says a few words. And Prabhupada explains, something like, well, I'm trying to manage the temple and, I think I would be more inspired if I was a sannyasi. And Prabhupada said, your wife is helping you with the running of the temple. Why do you need to not have your wife? And then he took, like an apple and a pear and put them in Tejas's hand. Now Tejas is using two hands. And Tejas again tried to make some argument which Prabhupada counted. And Prabhupada put some more fruit in his hands. So this went on and on, back and forth, until the fruit was falling out of Tejas's hand. And Prabhupada told him, you know, look, just forget about taking sannyas, don't worry about it. Then, this was going on in Prabhupada's darshan room in Vrindavan. This was actually going on there. Then Prabhupada went into the room, or no, it was happening there. Then there was a darshan, many devotees and some guests, like 20 or 30 people came into the room. Tejas had something to do and he came back after just a little while, wanting to go in and join the darshan. But there was only one place left, right at the front. So he had to make his way through the devotees, all these devotees, which is always a bit of a disturbance, going through like this, sort of, trying to make way. Devotees had to lift their legs and so on, because the room was full. And Tejas got into the middle of the room, and there's Prabhupada speaking. Prabhupada stopped. And then Prabhupada said out loud, Tejas Maharaj. And everyone laughed. Anyway, then Tejas went and sat down. Yes, right, so that's another little story. Now, I don't know if I should tell you this, because this is a joke told by Prabhupada, which I'm sure I've told here a number of times, about prasadam. You know the joke? You know the joke? You know the joke, right? No, anyway, okay, I'll tell you. So this is a joke. It's not a true story, but Prabhupada told it. At one temple, somewhere, one night, the devotees had a big feast. Just a really, really big feast. And one of the devotees in particular, he ate so much, just so much, so he couldn't even really stand up. And the last thing he ate was a big, big golden brown, effulgent golden brown, juicy gulab jamun, like a super duper one. Yeah. And then he just ate that, and it all sort of squelched, and the liquid came out, and you know what these things do sometimes. Then he just collapsed asleep. Next morning he got up, and what? Oh, he had to rush to the toilet to pass stool. So he made it into the toilet, he passed stool, and he stood up and he took a step out, and he turned around and looked at the stool and spoke to the stool. And he said, look at you. You are just so horrible. Ugh. You smell terrible. Ugh. I don't like you. The stool replied that last night I was that beautiful gulab jamun, but just see what happened to me after just one night of association. This is what I've become. Prabhupada told the joke. here's another prasadam story. It's a good one too. So this is from Bhadri Narayan Maharaj. When it was in 1970, he was a new devotee in our temple in Laguna Beach in California. And the temple president, Prabhupada was visiting, and the temple president came to Prabhupada to get permission for some special thing. He said, Srila Prabhupada, there's one of our close friends, he's a big Indian businessman. He is importing peanut oil, and he wants to sell us some, as much as we like, for a very good price. So would it be all right, Prabhupada, if we buy some peanut oil for the devotees, cooking for the devotees? And Prabhupada didn't really get into it. Prabhupada just said, peanut oil is not so first class. So, but then the temple president sort of, didn't get it that Prabhupada was not impressed and was not considering us getting peanut oil. So he said, but Prabhupada, if we can save money like this, we'll save so much money, then we can donate more to the BBT for book production. And Prabhupada didn't get into it. He just said, peanut oil is not so first class. Then the devotee tried again, third time. Prabhupada interrupted him, and brace yourselves. Prabhupada said, cook in any damn thing you want. And the temple president was shocked, and he got up to leave. And as he's leaving, Prabhupada said, I do know of one man who one night ate too many pakoras cooked in peanut oil. So the president asked, Srila Prabhupada, what happened to him? Prabhupada said, he died the next morning. So then Bhakti Caitanya Swami says, we never saw peanut oil in the temple kitchen ever. Yeah, right. Okay. Now here's one. An interesting little one. One very senior devotee was with Prabhupada in Mumbai. And Prabhupada practically every night would go out to visit, these people from these big, very wealthy and very pious, usually kind of Vaishnav type families. And these families inevitably, at the end of the program, would serve prasadam. And, it means like really high class and lots of varieties and just, expertly done. And this one devotee, he was at Brahmachari at the time, and he was trying to be austere. So the host, the actual host, came around offering a second rasgulla to everyone. And everyone's accepting, but this devotee, he refused because he wanted to be austere. And Prabhupada saw that. And this devotee was sitting next to Prabhupada, so Prabhupada saw this. Prabhupada said, you can take a sweet to make an old man happy. So he took a second Rascal. Oops. Right. There is more to come. I am going to tell you a prasadam related story about a lady. In fact, I'm going to tell you two about ladies. This first one is from Malati Devi Dasi. So this was sometime early on, like, I don't know, 1971 maybe. Prabhupada was having a big Pandal program in Delhi. And, like 20,000 people were coming every night. And she was cooking for Prabhupada in this room, which was a floor and with a little, like, 2-burner thingy on the floor, kerosene stove. On the floor. And usually there was a couple of inches of water on the floor. And she's using a sari. And every time, saris are what? 6 yards, 6 meters? She says 6 yards here, Malati. And because there's a petticoat, an undergarment, then the sari. And these things would just be soaked. They just suck up the water, then stick around her ankles and legs. It was just very inconvenient. So one of the days she was out shopping in the market, and she saw some people selling very colourful red, green, blue, yellow gagras or skirts with little mirrors. So sort of like cultural items from Rajasthan. And they were kind of, well, not up to the knee, but like halfway between the ankle and the knee. And she thought, this is what I need. And it won't get wet. And I'll be fine. Okay, so she bought one. And she thought, what would happen if Prabhupada comes in and sees me wearing one of these? But then she said to herself, he never comes in, so I don't need to worry about that. So now she's cooking, yes. And she would then, after cooking, she'd have to serve the prasadam to Prabhupada. But her logic was, she put her sari over the skirt, and it would be, Prabhupada wouldn't notice. Be fine. So, there she is, the first day she's wearing this skirt in the middle of cooking Prabhupada's lunch. Prabhupada walked in. And what did she say? He stopped and stared at me, speaking in a not very appreciative manner, with a slight nod of his head, like, and so then, what is this? And she says, if it were possible to drown in 2 inches of water, I would have drowned on the spot. And needless to say, that was the end of that experiment. And I went ecstatically back to wet around the ankles, saris and petticoats. Haribol. And another one from Yamuna, Mother Yamuna, and another disciple of Prabhupada called Harsharani Devi Dasi. And they're cooking lunch for Prabhupada somewhere in India. And they're cooking samosas for Prabhupada. And Prabhupada walked in and picked up one of the samosas and ate it. And picked up another one. And Harsharani, one of these two ladies, said, Srila Prabhupada, you're not meant to eat these. They're not offered yet. And Prabhupada said, who has told you that? and she said, you do, Srila Prabhupada. And Prabhupada said, I make the rules, I can break them. Right. And last one, and this is quite a one actually. This is now in Mayapur. And she was cooking for Prabhupada again. And then Prabhupada told her, tomorrow a group of my sannyasi godbrothers are coming to have lunch with me. Yes, so, okay, right. So now she thought, well, she knew these, they're elderly men, and, they're very sort of, what would you say, kind of finicky, they're very sort of formal, like excessively formal. And if they know she's cooked, then they will not be pleased. And if she serves what she cooks, they will not be pleased at all. So she went around, just a small group of devotees staying in Mayapur at that time. She went around the men and asked, could you please cook? No, I'm too busy. Could you please cook? No, I'm far too busy. Could you please cook? No chance, I'm totally too busy. And she had to cook. So then she asked, well, look, at least could you serve the prasadam? And she explained the situation. And the devotees just said, no, we're just too busy. So she had to cook, then she had to serve it. And when she served it with her sari pulled over her face, not just sort of balanced on top, but right down like beneath the chin, which is very traditional for married ladies in Uttar Pradesh, actually, to this day. So there she was, but she'd never done it. Now she's trying to look through the sari to see, and she couldn't really see that well, and trying to serve the prasadam, and trying to be as inconspicuous as possible. Suddenly, in the middle of serving the prasadam, Srila Prabhupada said to his assembled godbrothers, there was like 5 or 6 of them, Prabhupada said, this is Malati Devi Dasi. She has cooked your prasadam, now she's serving it. She is one of my disciples. She would slit her throat for me, and I would slit my throat for her. Haribol. And then the prasadam went on. So she could see Prabhupada was not afraid of having a lady cooking and serving for these devotees, because it's like he made a point of announcing this. So there you go, devotees. There's actually a little more we could say about prasadam. But anyway, Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada Ke. Any comments, questions? Yes.
Purity, you mentioned about the story of garlic and onion.
Yes.
There is a lot of controversy going on about mushrooms. Some devotees eat mushrooms and they say it's fine to do so, and others don't. And we've got very senior members in the movement who take mushrooms. So we don't personally do it. Why is it that some devotees do it, and especially Sikh?
Okay, yeah. You know, Prabhupada ate mushrooms once. I'm not aware of him eating mushrooms more than once, but once he did. But then he said that it's best not to eat mushrooms because they are a fungus. Yeah. So it's our standard to not use mushrooms. In fact, actually in South Africa, one mushroom producing company, they offered to donate, like every week or every few days, whatever, loads, like a ton of mushrooms or something for Food for Life, but we refused it. So, you know, I only know one devotee, maybe I'm just out of touch, but I only know one devotee who has taken mushrooms or was taking them on a regular basis. And that was because mushrooms have a particular medicinal effect. They help reduce blood pressure. So his doctor put him onto mushrooms, and for several months, or I can't remember. I remember he's a GBC member. I remember him telling all the devotees in the meeting that this is what I'm doing and that it helps, although I think he's stopped now. Yeah, but the problem is it's very low class. It's because it's a fungus. You know, it's sort of like if you ever get athlete's foot, you know what I mean? It's a fungus. It's the same sort of thing. It grows in the dark and in sort of tamasic conditions like dark and dank and damp. So generally we don't take mushrooms. If devotees do, I mean, like I say, I was only aware of the one who maybe still does, but maybe doesn't also. Yeah, because for health reasons. Like I do know some devotees who take garlic sometimes, not regularly, but sometimes, for health purposes. Because garlic is a type of natural antibiotic. But the thing is, so it has, you know, like well-known medicinal qualities. But so does penicillin. And what? Anyway, you know, so do, you know, the antibiotics that devotees get if they get a cold or, you know, something like that. Tetracycline. And I mean, there's all sorts of antibiotics. So we only take them when we need to, for medicinal purposes. Yeah. I mean, in very extreme cases, the people who have TB, tuberculosis, normally they have to take antibiotics for like 6 months. It's a whole big thing. It's not the usual sort of 5 days or a week, whatever, something like that. Yeah, so, I mean, some people, when we say we don't take garlic, they say, oh, but it has medicinal qualities, which is true. But then we can say, well, look, so do regular antibiotics, and you don't find people just taking them on an ongoing basis unless they have tuberculosis. Yeah. So therefore, best to avoid it. Hare Krishna. Yes.
First thing, you mentioned some story about sickness and the love bites.
Oh, yeah.
So I was just wondering, can you maybe elaborate a little more about how we can understand time of sickness as the love bites of Krishna?
Oh, well, yeah, that was on the first night.
Yeah, it wasn't the first
And
time.
Prabhupada said that when a devotee becomes sick, it is like Krishna's getting a love bite. It means, a love bite, I hope I don't have to explain about love bites, but they hurt, because you actually get bitten, and it hurts. But it's an expression of affection. Yeah. So like that, and Prabhupada said, getting sick sort of hurts, it's unpleasant, but it's actually Krishna, like taking away some of your karma. Or you could say it's Krishna teaching you a lesson about how to progress in your Krishna consciousness. So in that sense, Prabhupada used that example. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. And what is it? It's Wednesday. We will continue tomorrow. And what time we start? Well, the kirtan is usually 6:30, and the class usually begins at 6:45 for an hour or so. So, but now, anyway.
We'll have kirtan now, yeah.
Okay. You want to make any announcements now or later?
Yeah, after the kirtan.
Okay, so devotees and friends, everyone can stand up for the kirtan.
His Holiness Bhakti Caitanya Swami ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Sri Harinam Sankirtan Yagya ki, Nitai Gaura Pramanande.